Welcome to another episode of the Untold Stories. Remember, if you are listening to the right stories, then you are listening to the Untold Stories. Today in this episode, we are gonna talk about the famous flight of the rebirth of an eagle. The eagle has the longest lifespan of its species. It can live up to 70 years. But to reach this age, the eagle must make a hard decision. In its 40th year, its long and flexible fingernails can no longer grab prey, which serves as food. Its long and sharp beak becomes bent. Its old-aged and heavy wings, due to their thick feathers, stick to its chest and make it difficult to fly. Then the eagle is left with only two options: die or go through a painful process of change which lasts 150 days. The process requires that the eagle fly to a mountain top and set on its nest. There the eagle knocks its beak against a rock until it plucks it out. Then the eagle will wait for a new beak to grow back, and then it will pluck out its fingernails. When its new fingernails grow back, the eagle starts plucking its old-aged feathers, and after 5 months, the eagle takes its famous flight of rebirth and lives for 30 more years. Many times we come across this question, why do I need to change? And the answer is very simple, that change is inevitable. Many times in order to survive, we have to start a change process. We sometimes need to get rid of old memories, habits and other past traditions. Only freed from past burden can we take advantage of the present. As they say, nothing is permanent except change. Change is nothing less than survival. Change is not an option but a necessity. Change is nature's way of forcing us out of our comfort zone. Your life does not get better by chance, but it gets better by change. Change is the law of life and it is built into our genes, and yet we resist it, not realizing that without change we cannot progress, we cannot move on. Not changing is the process of paralyzing ourselves. Change without a sense of urgency is usually not enough and always too late. We cannot afford to change gradually or slowly. We need to change before we become irrelevant. We need to change before we are made redundant. We need to change before we are made to change. We need to change as much as we need fresh air and clean water. Not recognizing this is one of the fundamental weaknesses of a great majority of failures in our lives. Change is not just a tool to becoming better, but a necessity. The top 1 percentile of the world that we keep referring to as the movers and seekers of the world, not only do they embrace change, they seek it, and even more so, they chase it. They know that complacency is the worst enemy. I would like to share with you a true incident that serves as a great reminder that if we do not make the decision to change fast enough, we will end up on a burning platform. A disastrous explosion and fire occurred on Piper Alpha drilling platform in the North Sea off the coast of Scotland on 6 July 1988, killing 167 people, including 2 crewmen of a rescue vessel. 61 workers escaped and survived. 30 bodies were never recovered. The total insured loss was about $3.4 billion, making it one of the costliest man-made disasters ever. At the time of the disaster, the platform accounted for approximately 10% of North Sea oil and gas production, and the accident is the worst offshore oil disaster in terms of lives lost and industry impact. One of the 61 crew members who survived was Andy Mochan, a superintendent on the rig. Describing his experience at the hospital, he recalled being awakened by the explosion and alarms. Badly injured, he escaped from his quarter to the platform edge. Beneath him, oil had surfaced and ignited. Twisted steel and other debris littered the surface of the water. Because of the freezing temperature of the water, he knew that he could perhaps survive a maximum of 20 minutes if he jumped in. Andy jumped 15 stories from the burning platform into the icy waters of the ocean below. Fortunately, he was rescued. Later, when asked why he took that potentially fatal leap, he did not hesitate. He said it was either jump or fry. He chose possible death over certain death. Andy jumped because he felt he had no choice. The price of staying on the burning platform was too high. Under ordinary circumstances, even Andy would never have considered plunging into icy waters. But these were not ordinary times. His platform was on fire. The burning platform had caused radical change in his behavior, and he did what is not normal, and that made all the difference. We all need a burning platform. Sometimes life gives it to us, and that becomes the turning point in our life. Rarely we look for that change. Most successful people will tell you that a burning platform was the point from which they propelled themselves in a different direction, which ultimately led them to their success. It was the point that stopped them in their tracks and forced them to either make a U-turn or go in a completely unexpected direction. It was that point in the life of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi which made him Mahatma Gandhi. It was that point in the life of Narendra which made him Swami Vivekananda. It was that point in the life of Mary Teresa that made her Mother Teresa. It was that point in the life of Yuvraj Ram which made him Maryada Purushottam Bhagwan Ram. So the question is, should we just wait for life to throw us a burning platform, or should we find this burning platform within us? This burning platform must be a constant in our life. It is this sense of urgency, this burning platform, that you can identify with the 1%, the movers and shakers of the world. Change has a considerable psychological impact on the human mind. To the fearful, it is threatening because it means that things could get worse. To the hopeful, it is encouraging because things will get better. To the confident, it is inspiring. In the larger scheme of things, change is the one true path, the only path to liberation. The late Robert F. Kennedy summed it up very well when he said, "Progress is a nice word, but change is its motivator, and change has its enemies." More often than not, that enemy is within us. If the enemy is outside, something can be done. But if the enemy is inside, then nothing can be done. If you do not change, life will change you. The difference between the two is simply control. In one, you are the driver, and in the other, you are being driven. As you heard in the story of the eagle, that change is not only painful, but it requires sacrifice. It is this sacrifice that we are often not willing to make because it means giving up something today for maybe something better tomorrow. That is a risk not many are willing to take, but any change is risk. Without that element of risk, there can be no change. We are shackled by these fears, not understanding that not taking any risk to change ourselves is the biggest risk we are taking anyway. Once we understand this great paradox, the only way forward is to adopt change and adapt our decision accordingly. Life is about decisions and constant change. They are both intertwined and inseparable. Decide and be free. Remain undecided and be ridiculed. The choice is yours. They always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. Remember, if you are listening to the right stories, then you are listening to the untold stories. And if this episode has matched your wavelength, then share it with people who need it. And just in case you have the time, then you must listen to my other episode, A Complete Makeover, where I talked about ego and an important practice called Empty Your Cup. That's all from this episode. Remember friends, you too have untold stories to tell which can make a difference in someone's life, because certain untold stories are born out of certain lives and certain lives are born out of certain untold stories.